Let's now move to the area of water. And I think one way to know the indignity is every time you see a truck of water pass where you are seated or driving or in public transport. How did we get here as a capital city? Is it that we don't have enough water, or is it that we've just failed to fix water delivery?
It is really poor planning and then governance. Poor planning because the last water source developed for Nairobi was 1997, and that is Ndakaine, the third phase of Ndakaine. The first water source, in fact, all the water sources were done by the colonial government until 1930, from 1907, Kikuyu Springs, which gives us 4,000 cubic meters, 1% of our water. Then you go to Ruiru Dam, that gives us 4% of our water. All of that was done pre-independence, 1936, 1937. And then Sasumo Dam, which gives us 11%, coming down all the way to Kabete, flowing down throughout the city. The final one was Ndakaine. Ndakaine was in 3 phases. The last phase was 1997. So since 1997, with the population in Nairobi, there has not been a complete development of a new water source for the city. So that is part of the problem, because every day, all of these sources give us 525.6 million liters of water a day.
That's true.
Yet the demand is 850 million liters per day. And remember, annually it grows up by 25%. So if you have not planned forward to the growth and urbanization, by 2030, 65% of our population is going to be in urban areas.
Yes.
Then you will still have the problem, because the cities keep growing. So that's the first problem, the poor planning. Fortunately for us, we have Northern Collector 1. Northern Collector 1, which is coming from Maragua in Moranga, is going to deliver to us another 140 million liters of water. That will bridge the deficit to 85%. But that will only end by December 2023, under Nairobi Water and Athi Water, etc. After that, Northern Collector 2 will be completed in 2028. And that adds another 180 million. Yes. So it's about the production of water
let's
sources.
Talk about just the one that ends in 2023.
Yeah.
Which you've said that you hope that will be delivered, and that will be able to take us to about almost 85%.
We have to make sure it's delivered.
What will happen if it is not delivered?
Well,
I mean, we've seen projects fail, projects don't start, and they stall for one reason or the other. What will happen if that doesn't happen?
Then we still don't have water. It has to be delivered. There's nothing else we can do. We have to make sure it is delivered. I mean, water is devolved, but it's a project being done by the national government, and that's why we want the correct national government to be in place. Because not just Nairobi, but many cities along the line require the Northern Collector 1 to be completed.
Let's talk about then things that we can be able to be in control of.
Yes.
With every high-rise building, there's a borehole being sunk in Nairobi.
Yeah.
And if you speak to a lot of the water experts, they tell you that with every high-rise building at the same time, we are depleting our water table. Because then we harvest, we are not necessarily bringing any more water, and we're putting pressure on the resources that we have. Is this a situation that you think can be helped? Will the inlets from all these other places be able to alleviate this problem? Because when you look at urban development, it's likely to rise and go faster and faster as we approach 2030 and 2065.
There are many things we need to do on top of just the boreholes, because if you look at east of Uhuru Highway, we have a lot of salty water. The World Health Organization recommended value is 1.5 ppm, that is particles per million, and we've exceeded it more than 3 times. Now on this other side of the city, you have a pretty low water table, and there's availability of water. You have areas like Karen and some parts of Ngando, Dagoretti South, that have never had piped water, from the county government, but they have water that has come from the boreholes. We need to, on top of increasing the water sources, or beyond Northern Collector 2 and 1, Karimenu, all the way to Aberdare, because there are another 5-6 water projects that are going to come down the line. We need to talk about water harvesting. We need to talk about recycling of water, especially for industrial use. There are many more things that we must do. But more importantly, 43% of our water is non-revenue. Non-revenue water means it's seeping out. It is leaking.
That's true.
And through corruption, because there's natural losses in any water system. And you find people who have actually locked up the levers, the taps. They've locked them, and they're selling water to us in water bowsers. So then all of those are governance issues that still must be addressed. When
we talk about the leakage, about the 43%, which is what I wanted to come to, about just the cost of water.
Yeah.
When you look at the cost of cubic meter of water with the bowsers versus what the county government sells, the county government sells a lot lower.
Yeah.
And a lot of politicians who've contested as MP, as MCA, or as governor within the county of Nairobi since 2010, every time everybody says that I will come in and I will solve this problem, and you will not be able to see water bowsers running through your areas. And the most common place is South Sea. Everybody says that that area has a perennial water problem, but the tap's running. Is it that there's a lack of political will, and do you have that political will to be able to solve that water problem in the event you got into office?
Yes, I want to solve it because I want to be re-elected and I want to succeed. So I have the political will to solve it. I've lived in South Sea before. I've stayed in Langata. I know that there's been, time over time, there's been that problem. If you look at the water that comes from Kikuyu, if we add more from that side to the Kabete treatment plant, move it down by gravity, actually, down Langata, which is a piping program that is going on, then some of those problems would end. But we must solve the biggest issue, which is the quantity, the sheer quantity
of the water, that
comes.
But you know what I don't hear from you, Honorable Sakaja, is you are a nominated member of parliament.
Yes.
You've lived in that particular area. You are Senator in Nairobi. You are part of the ruling party. But I don't hear any conversations about we tried and these are the things that we did and we stopped here, or this is what the problem was, and so on and so. So you're saying that you will come in as a governor and will be able to solve the problem because you want to be re-elected.
Yeah.
But over the last 9 years, how come then this has not been resolved and we've not had you championing this as you've championed many other legislations before?
Then you have not looked for me championing it. Just go to the Hansard of Parliament. I have spoken about water severally. I have raised it, and that's why I'm looking for a different role. I've been a legislator. I've not been in the executive. I've not had any role to implement, but to raise. If it's bills, I've raised the highest number of bills in both National Assembly and Senate. If it is motions, in fact, I've been rated the best performing senator the last year. So I've raised the issues, but my role has not been to implement.
No, the question for me is that there's what legislation can do.
Yeah.
And there's just what adherence to the law, just to make sure that there's no wastage or corruption within that water. So I'm just talking about just within the water system.
Yeah.
That the guy who's blocking the water pipe so that he can be able to come and fill his bowser and come and sell back to you, either is arrested and put in, or his bowser is stopped from serving people. That is what I'm speaking about. From a legislation perspective, there's no doubt, and the Hansard records are in place.
How would you have done that as a senator, for instance?
I'm not a senator.
How would you have done that?
No, but
you understand the role. You understand the role of a senator.
What I'm saying is that you having been part of the national government.
No, I've never been part of national government.
But
your
party, your party, Jubilee Party, you are part of Jubilee Party.
As a member of parliament. There's a national government. As a member of the legislature. There are three arms of government. There's executive, there's legislature, and judiciary.
We've seen you, for example, sometimes take certain position that somebody has been arrested and going to champion for that person to be released, either for infringement that you don't think is right, and so on and so forth. But we've got all these people in Nairobi who are sold for water at about, the cost varies, sometimes 170 shillings or whatever amount of money.
I've raised it several.
And they're suffering. But for years and years, nothing gets done.
Exactly.
What would be the difference when you become the governor?
Because I'll have the mandate, the capability, and the power to get it done. That's why I want to be governor. Because I can make so much noise about it in Senate as I've been making. I can issue press conferences as I've been doing. I can bring bills as I've been doing. But it's not enough. I need to have my hands on the job. And that's why I'm moving from a legislative role to an executive role to sort that out and make Nairobi work.